Hi, this is our hobby range tunnel. This is the mid-range of the tunnels that we do. We're going to now show you how to build that from start. Today we're going to build one of our 10 foot by 15 foot hobby greenhouses. It's going to have base rail on, a front timber door and a back PVC zip door with side ventilation. So the first step to do is to work out where you're going to put your tunnel. So firstly we're going to put one line in, which is either the side or the front, but it's wherever you want the side of the greenhouse or the front of the greenhouse to face in direction to anything, maybe a fence, a building or whatever. So I mean, we're quite lucky because we've got an open site, but first of all we'll get along and put some posts in. So our structure is 15 foot long, so if we start maybe here, say, yeah, we'll put one in there. There we go, we'll tie that on. And then about 20 foot back, we want to put another one in, and this is our first line. So now we want to do the front of the structure, so we'll put another post in on the outside of this line. The front of the structure going to be, because this is going to be the front corner. So yeah, you're right somewhere about there, I'd say. People often ask, can I put my polytunnel up on a site that's not level? When you're looking at polytunnels and trying to site it, they're okay to put on a slope lengthways, but side to side levels you can only get away with a little bit of a mount, and that adjustment's on the foundation tubes. So when you're looking at your site, just have a think about where you're going to site it with the levels. We'll put a little bit more about that in the instructions. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the 3-4-5 principle for getting things square, which is anybody ever done any building? That's how we square buildings. So roughly we want to be wider than the structure, so maybe about 12 or 14 foot wide. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the marker pen to mark the line, which I find the easiest way of doing. So we'll use I'm going to use meters because it's big enough, but you can use feet as well. The bigger the scale, the more accurate the square is. Let's just put a dot on there where we want to start, Tom. There's somewhere about there. Yeah. So I'm going to go 4 meters up here. Okay, and we'll go 3 meters across on this line. Okay, I'll just put a little loop in there for you, Tom. You're going to go to the 4 meter one. So we've got a 3, 4, 5 triangle, which gives you 90 degrees at the corner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line the 5 meter up with my dot here, and that should give me a square. There we go. So if I get that, do you want to come this and pull a post in there? So once you've got your line in, it's safe just to check it and make sure we've got a 5 meter here, and that's at 90 degrees. So now we've got 2 lines. All we need to do is put another line across So you can see now we've got us 2 lines in which are square. What we need to do now is put the 2 opposing lines in. So I'm going to measure from this one across, and then we're going to knock a stake in here at 10 foot. That's the width of our greenhouse. Now these are internal to internal measurements, so we'll put us foundation tubes on the outside of these lines. So that's giving us 10 foot there, so we'll put a piece of string on there, and then we'll measure 10 foot at the opposite end and put another post in. What we're going to do now is put the opposite line in, so we're going to measure 15 foot, which is the length of our structure. Right, let's have the line across. You can now see that we've got the polytunnel marked out, and that's 10 foot wide, 15 foot long. At this point it is worth checking that your dimensions are correct, because you can't go backwards from this point onwards. I just want at this point to explain the 2 foundation tube types, which are fairly standard on our structures. This one's a straight foundation. It's just a standard foundation that we supply with the structure. Basically what you can do with this, if you're going to trench your structure in, you just bash that into the ground and that's it. If you're on rocky soil, or you're going to concrete a pad foundation in, then there's a little hole in here where you put a nail through, you dig your square hole and drop that into the foundation pad. This is our screw anchor. Now if you've got reasonably good ground, it doesn't want to be stony, this is what you use. The quick, simple, and it's literally just push it in and screw it into the ground. If you do hit a rock with these, they're no worse than anything else, because you've got to dig the rock out and then just put some postcrete round it afterwards and backfill it, and that does the same as a standard foundation when it's concreted in. So first of all, we're going to start and put our corner foundation in. We're working to the outside of these lines because it's 10 foot inside to inside. So we'll just get at a point where we're happy that's in the corner, because we're going to disturb these lines as we're going along. That's it. And then we can drive that in. So you can see now we've got our first foundation in. What we're going to do now is get the next centre, which centre to centre is 5 foot on these. So again, just to the edge of the line. There we go, and we're going to screw that in there now as well. You can see now we've got all our 8 foundation tubes set in the ground, and they want to be between 400 and 450 out of the ground. What we're going to do now is take all the string downs and start to assemble the framework. So they're all joined together. What we're going to do now is put the fittings on. So we've got different types of pack that we've supplied to you. The HP KO1 is an end hoop frame pack. So this includes the door frame bolt brackets as well, and all the other parts you want for the first hoop. So we'll lay them out now. Sorry, the centre hoop ones are the EBP05. So we'll lay them out now, and then we'll put the brackets on. So what we've got here, we've got a hoop to ridge bracket, 2 door frame brackets, 2 foundation collars, and these are keel clamps. These are used for putting the stabilisers on. We don't have to put them on at this time. And these are saddle clamps. We put them on the bottom of the second foundation like that. So let's get these on here. Make sure that the bolt which you're going to thread onto the hoop faces the inside, and then it's nice and smooth for the cover. So these want to go over the joint on the hoop. We don't have to tighten these up yet, it's just a case of getting them on the framework. And these need to go so the plate's facing the outside of the framework as well. So we'll just slide one on one side. And one on the other. And then just drop the foundation tube collars onto the foundations. So what we've got left there is the 2 bolts to bolt the door frame to the door frame brackets, and the keyhole clamps to put the corner diagonals on, and a bung for the end of the ridge. Okay, so next we're going to do an inner hoop pack. So same again as what we did on the first hoop. There's less fittings in this obviously, but we're going to drop the rings on the foundation tubes. And we're going to slot the hoop to ridge bracket on the ridge. This is a unique feature of Northern Polytunnels, and what we put jacking rings on for is so that you can tension the cover after you've finished covering and battening. You can lift the hoops up to tension the cover. So what we're going to do first of all, because we can't tension the end hoops, they're fixed to the door frame, so we're going to set these higher than the other ones. So we're going to set these at 150mm, roughly from the floor level. If you want to get this accurate, you can put a spring line and a level on, but our land is fairly level here, so we're okay. So we'll just give that a little nip. It doesn't need to be too tight. Do the same on all 4 corners and leave the middle ones loose. When you've got your corner ones set, what you want to do is lift your middle rings just so they're going to be above your base rail, which is 3 inch. So set them about 80mm to the lowest point here. They don't have to be tight, so about 80mm there, and then that'll give us a chance to jack up when we need to. Okay, the next step's quite simple. We just lift the hoop up and place it onto the foundation tubes, one at once. Let them get, there we go, and then push it down. The next step is to put our ridge tube in. We've got, on this is 15 foot, these are 5 foot ridges. You might get 6 foot ones, but you'll get one plain and then the swaged. Put the plain one in first, and all we need to do for that is just slide it in, really. Do you just want to undo the bolt on the next one, Tom, if you can reach it? Right. Okay, we've got the ridge tube in place. You want to make the end of the tube flush with the end of the bracket, and then just nip this up. You can see now we've got all the ridge in place and all that's fastened. We still need to put the plastic bungs in the end, which maybe Tom can do that for us. The next step is to put our diagonals in place. Now these are to make sure that the gable end is plumb, and it also strengthens the gable when we start to pull the cover to. So the first step is to fix it to the clamps that we put on the bottom of the foundation tube. So just take one of these nuts off here and fix the stabilizer to it. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the keyhole clamps that we've got out of the end hoop pack and just put one of these on the end. Make sure that the bolt comes in from the outside, goes through the keel clamp, and the diagonal fits on the inside. Don't put it in between the clampers, else it won't tighten up. So we're going to tighten this bottom bracket up first, make sure that's nice and tight, and then what we're going to do is plumb the end up. So we'll use a spirit level, make sure it's plumb on the end. We can adjust this bracket up and down till it is plumb, which is there, and then we're just going to tighten that up. Okay, and we do repeat that on all four corners, approximately in the minute in the middle, and then we need to measure. So we'll measure that and get that central. Okay, you can see the gap here now, so this is approximately what we need to dig the trench to put the door posts in, and we leave this batten on and that gets buried in as well. So Tom's just going to mark out roughly where we are. Yeah, and the same at the opposite end. See, we've got it in place, we've measured from either side to make sure it's central. And we've dug a trench, so you can see we just clear at the top there. What you need to do now is get the brackets drilled, so drill through the bracket. And put your bolt in place. What you do need to do is you need to make sure that the door frame is plumb. So we're going to check it here and make sure the door frame's plumb when you've got it in place. Bolt that up, and then we're ready for the next stage. Okay, we've got our timber door frames in now. The next step on this one is to put the base rails on. So you can see I've set the timber out around the structure. On the gable ends you'll either get 4 foot or 5 foot pieces. You should get 4 of them depending on the width of the structure you've got, and on the sides the long length will be 8, and you may have some 5s, some 4s to make it up to the full length. But if you lay it out first, you get an idea, and you will need to do some trimming on this, so it's not exact. So let's just go through the fittings that we've got for the base rail. We've got a HPKO3 pack, and what we've got in there is we've got this is the corner joints for the timbers to join on the corners here, and we've also got the nail plates to join the base rail to the door frame. So that's in HPK. You should have 4 of them, and the bolts to fix it to the timber like that. What we've got then is we've got the HPK04, and these are the intermediate brackets to fix the base rail to the foundation tubes in between the ends. So we've got 2 of them bracket packets because we've 2 intermediate hoops, and then what you'll have on top of that is some base rail joiner pack. So however many joints you've got in your base rail, you'll have the number of packs to join them up with a timber nail plate. Okay, what we're going to do first is we're going to put the bracket on and show you how to mount the corner. Okay, so you can see how we've screwed the bracket on. I've not tightened this up yet, and what we're going to do is we're going to mount the front base rail so it sits level with the flush with the side of the foundation tube and flush with the front of the door. So we'll just get Tom, have you got a pencil, and we'll just mark that and cut that here. There we go. We'll just mark that and cut that there. And while we're doing that, I can show you where that mounts. So you want to be this face flush with the front of the base rail, and then we can just drill that through there. That should fit in there nice and snug now. Okay, and we're going to drill that one from the outside. I bolt that up nice and tight, and then we'll carry on down the side of the structure. This is an intermediate hoop bracket which comes with pack HPK04, and what we're going to do is make sure the hoop tensioning collar is above the 3x2 timber, and I'm just going to take that off. I'll just roughly mark where that is. So you can see now what we've got here. The bolts are on the outside, the saddle clamps on the inside, and we've tightened that up, and that's nice and firm. And this allows us to use the jacking collar when we've come to put the cover on. Where we've got a joint in the base rail, as you can see here, what we're going to do is use the timber nail plates. So we'll get one of them, we'll get the joint nice and straight. You want to put about 10, up to 10 nails in either side of this nail plate. To join the base rail to the door frame post, again we're going to use a timber nail plate. You can see, you might be able to see on camera, I'm not sure. This isn't actually level. Level will probably be about here, but I'll get a gap under the bottom of my base rail, and I don't really want that. You could, if you want to put these in level, fill that up with soil. And it depends on the lie of your land, but I'm just going to put it so it touches the ground and nail that up. So you can see now I've just held this in place with a couple of nails, and what we need to do now to make the base rail secure on the corner is to use a 6-inch nail and drive it through so it goes into the base rail from the timber door frame. And then carry on, after you've got your 6-inch nail in, nailing your plate up approximately, again, 10 nails on either side. We've got all those base rails now complete on the polytunnel. The next step is to batten round, and you might say, well, what's that for? So before I go around and batten around the tunnel, I just want to explain how we trap the polythene in onto the timbers. So if we say that's the base rail or even the door frame, what we do first of all is we put a batten on, okay, and we nail this batten on. This needs to be nailed probably about every 400 mil, something like that. And then what happens when we put the cover on the structure, we pull the polythene over this batten, and then we put another batten in below it. And what that does, it creates like an S anchor and stops the cover from pulling out. So what we do then is we re-nail this up every 300 millimeter. And what you'll see then, instead of it just pulling on the nails, it actually pulls on the lock. So we get a lot stronger sheet fixing in that method. So to get the right place where we want to put as top rail, we need to make sure we've got enough space to put our locking batten underneath. So sit a spacer on and just give it a little bit of gap so you can get it in easily, and then nail on. And as I said before, I nail about every 400 on this. Okay, you can do that all the way around the base rail now, and then we'll show you how to do the door frames. On this polytunnel, on the back end of the polytunnel, we're going to use one of our unique zip vent doors. These are made out of heavy duty PVC with some big strong zips in them, and a vent panel what you can cover up depending whether you want ventilation or not. So before we put the locking batten on, what we're going to do is we're going to mount our door, and this is going to fix with that locking batten. Okay, we've got our vent door panel on here now, and you can see how we've tacked it on with some tacks. Make sure that the velcro's on the inside, not the outside, and that's where we put our roll vent. I can put it on now if you want. I can show you how it works. So you can see this is a velcro roll vent, and that just goes straight on the back of there. And what this does, it gives you the chance to completely seal the polytunnel up like that, or you can adjust the amount of ventilation you want by simply just pulling down and putting back on. And then when you want to get out of the structure, I'll do that from the outside, because you usually come in from the outside. You just zip it up like that. They're good strong zips, these as well. And you can roll this up and velcro this up if you want to have a door. I could have made a better job of velcroing that up, but there we go. It gives you the idea, rolling it up. There we go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to batten around the outside of this to make his locking batten. Just make sure we've got enough on the outside there. Yeah, you're right. With this particular polytunnel, we've decided to put a side vent on it. At 15 foot long, it's really borderline whether you need one or not. Any longer than 15 foot, I would suggest you put a side vent kit in, which as we go along we'll show you how it works. But basically we cover the polytunnel, and then we cut some holes in the side, and we have a curtain what winds up and down on the outside. But we need to put this part, which is the fixing rail, on before we put the cover on. So we need to get the brackets out. This is the EBP18, which is the side vent pack, and what you get in there is you'll get some brackets like this, and what we need to do with these is bolt them to the hoops. I'm going to bolt this bracket roughly about 3 foot from the base rail, or 90 centimetres up. What I watch when you're doing this is the base rail follows the land, and you want really this to be straight, so you might be better putting a string line on it to get the bracket straight, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'll get this bolted up and put on. On the corners we use a different bracket. We use a P-clip, which is like this, so we'll put that over, pull that together, and then this part of the bracket we slide that in through there. So you can see we've got this first bit in, and the way to put this on is to then slide that in, push it up to where it needs to be, get the next joiner, the alley trap joiner, wiggle wire joiner, slide that on, then put the bolts in the back, and bolt your bracket on. Leave this loose until we put a line on and get it straight. And again with the next one, put your wiggle wire joiner in on the end of it, slide it in, and then push it into the one you've already put on. and then put your last bracket on. Okay, we're going to level the C channel for the vent now, so we're going to level the middle one first. Okay, now we can level this end. Up. It's important we get this level, even if the tunnel is running down a slope or the base rail is going up and down, because the curtain needs to operate level when it goes up and down. Hi, we're going to build one of our hobby tunnel timber doors today. When you get the timber door pack, this is what it will look like. I'll just take the tape off. Inside the pack you should have 3 pieces of 2x2 which are 700mm long. You should have 3 battens which are 700mm long, 2 battens which are 1.9 and 2 battens which are 2.2. What we're going to do first is set these out on the bench. I suggest you do this before you start to put the polytunnel up, because you'll use your door to get you the size of the door frame when you're putting the polytunnel up. And also this is better done on a flat surface, either a garage floor. I mean, I'm looking to have a big bench, but you can do it on a garage floor. So we'll just set it out first so we know what we're making. There we go, and then 1 2x2 in the middle. So I'm going to mark that first. I'm going to mark the centre. That's 95 centimetres there. 95 centimetres there. Because we're going to drive some screws in there here, and I don't want to split the timber. I'm going to drill through these timbers to make a hole on one side. So we're going to do that approximately 2.5 centimetres in and through our centre lines. I'll do that one on the opposite side. Now is just screw these together using some wood screws which are supplied with the pack. Okay, I've got all my 6 screws in now. I just want to check the doors square before I put the nail plates on. So measure across, make sure it's somewhere in the air. If it's not, just give it a tap to straighten it. It should be the same measurement that way as it is across there. Yeah. Okay, once you've squared your door up, what we need to do now is start putting the nail plates on. So I just place them on the top and nail it. Go around all the 6 joints doing this, and once you've done this, the door will be nice and stable. At this stage we're going to cover the door. You can either use a full piece of polythene, which the kit supply, which should cover all the door, or you can cover half of the door in net, half the door in polythene. You can trim the polythene off after you've done that and use that in winter months if you want to do just temporary, put it on the back of the net if you want less ventilation and more heat in there. But first of all, we're gonna staple this on using our stapler just to get it in the right position. Put a little bit of tension on it so it's nice and tight when you're doing it. What we're going to do now is trim this net off, because we're going to bring the polythene up to the middle height. So we just trim that off here. I might just put a couple more staples in the middle there, just to hold it in place. So you can see we've got his net now stapled in. It's nice and tight. We've trimmed it off here, so what we're going to do is put our piece of polythene onto that. And again, I'd use a stapler just to hold it in place. Try and get a little bit of tension on this as you're doing it. So you can see now I've got my net and my polythene stapled onto the door. What I'm going to do then is lay these battens, which are 700, onto the top of the door. That way, and the long ones down the side. Okay, I've got them laid on there now. What we're going to do is use the 40mm nails again, and we're going to batten this down. So make sure the timber's in the centre, your batten's in the centre of the 2x2, and then nail through. These want to be in approximately every 150 to 200mm, and you want to go all the way around the door, battening that in. Okay, so you can see now I've got the door battened up with all the nails in. What we're going to do now is trim the door off. So trim all the excess material all around it. What you need to be thinking about now is whether the door, where your hinges are going basically. We suggest that the doors hinge inwards because of the wind. If the door's out and you get a big wind, you can blow it off. So it's always better to hinge your doors inwards. And then you need to decide whether you're going to hinge them from the right or the left. And that'll depend which side you put your hinges on. Okay, I've decided I'm going to hinge my door from the left, which means I want to put my hasp and staple on the right there. So we'll just screw that on, approximately in the middle. Okay, now we're going to turn the door over and we're going to put the hinges on. My hasp is this side, so I want to put the hinges on the opposite side. These are some 30mm screws which should come with your pack. I'm going to put the hinge so that the butt of the hinge is facing upwards, and then it doesn't get in the way when we want to put the door to the frame. Make sure you get these on square to the timber. And repeat that at the bottom hinge. There we go, we're all ready now for putting this in the frame. We've got the framework complete now. As you can see, all the door posts are in, all the locking buttons are on, and the framework's ready to put the anti-hotspot tape on. Now the anti-hotspot tape serves two purposes. One of them, it stops the cover heating up against the steel, which makes the cover last longer. And also what we do is we get any sharp edges while we're at it, so when we're covering it we make sure that we're not going to damage the cover. So with our structures you get two widths. You get a 30mm width, which we use for the end hoop, and a 20mm width, what we use for the middle hoops. And we'll start at the bottom of the hoop here. We don't need to go any lower than that. So we can start there, and we put it on where the cover is going to touch. So on the end hoop, we're going to put it at 45 degrees, because it's going to go right around the corner, I should say. Do this right over the hoop now, make sure you cover the brackets, and then do the middle hoops with the 20mm and the 30mm at the other side as well. So now we're going to apply the 20mm tape to the middle hoop, and with this one we want to get it dead central like this. So we start at the bottom of the hoop again. With the 30mm tape we also want to guard against this bolt catching the cover. So what we're going to do is just start there, across the ridge, up and over, cover the bolt, and back down onto the ridge again. This is probably a little bit overkill, but if you have some spare tape left, I'd just do these brackets as well, just to cover them up, and also do the diagonal bracing brackets here. It just stops any, if you're going to catch it with the cover, it just stops you damaging the cover while you're covering the structure. One of the final things on the base rail is just to trim this corner off. When we put this cover around, any sharp corners like this will go through the cover, so the best thing is just to slice this off at an angle. So we get a nice corner like that. Okay, now the polytunnel is ready for covering, so have a good look round, make sure you haven't missed anything. Everything should be ready straight away just to put the cover on and batten under there. I'm going to go briefly through the method how we cover it, just to give you an idea before we start doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the cover over, get the cover down the centre, which is usually a line in it, and then we're going to pull the cover tight across from this door top to that door top. That's why we've prepared these two buttons. And then we're going to work from the centre on one side, the centre the other, work back to the ends, pulling it tight and battening it on, and then finally round both gable ends. Okay, you can see now we've got to roll the polythene out. This is a 720 gauge diffused cover, which gives better light inside the structure. You don't get any shadowing in there. What we're going to do is roll this out down the side of the structure. Now if you don't have this amount of room down the side, you don't want to get it mucky, you can stand it up and roll it down the side and then pull it over. But we're just going to pull that We're going to get that equal at both ends now, so we'll just pull it this way a little bit. There we go. Now what I don't want you to do is do any pulling on this. You know, take it easy, because if it snags and you pull, then you'll create a hole in the cover. Okay, one important thing with the cover, you'll see that it's printed here. Okay, when you pull that on, you must make sure that you can read that from the inside, because the cover has two sides. One side has an anti-drip coating, and that's going to go to the inside. About there, Tom. Another one yet. Bit more. So we've pulled the cover over now. You want to get it in the sheet central on the framework. So you can see we've got a crease here and a crease here. So we want to try and get that in a central position. I think just a little bit more this way. And then what I want you to do now is just go inside the structure and check that the writing, you can read the writing from the inside. As you can see here, it says Visqueen Lumisol diffused AF, this side, inside, and then there's a date on it as well. People say to us sometimes that they haven't got enough cover because it doesn't reach the bottom of the post here, but what actually you do is you pull this round, so when you get it level you can see there's loads of covered spare there. Okay, what we're going to do first at one end is just place this batten in. We don't really need any creases here, so we'll just pull them out. Make sure your cover is central, and we'll just put the 3 central nails in. Okay, we're going to go to the other end now and do the same. Okay, the difference at this end, we're going to put some tension on it. You need to get the polythene tensioned over the ridge. So we're going to give it a pull here, like that, and then Tom's going to batten that in below. Okay, what we're going to do now is put the first batten on the side. Now, we haven't fixed the cover at the opposite side, so we don't need to put too much tension on the cover at this point. But you want to be level next to the hoop, and we just want to pull it across a little bit. Try and keep it tight in between the cells. So I'll pull it a little bit away and place that in. Okay, and we'll put that in now, Tom. You're just going to go past the hoop with a nail, and you can see that we've got that nice and straight. There's not too much tension on it, but it obviously doesn't want to be loose. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the other side and do the same on the other side. Okay, what we're going to do now is put this batten on. We want to get a little bit more tension on here if we can, and we want to keep the polythene tight between us both. So we're going to pull it that way and that way at the same time. Let's pull it your way a bit, Tom, if you can. Okay, we're going to go back to the other side now, and then we're going to cut 2 battens for the other side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tension the polythene, and I'm going to let Tom put that in, and it's more about getting these creases out. So I'm going to put my foot in here, give it one that way and push it down a little bit. That's it. He can then nail that in. If you are on a longer structure, just keep working out one batten at a time till you get to the corners. Okay, you can now see that we've got both sides on floor level battened up to the end of the greenhouse, and you can see we've not got too much tension there, but a little bit of a tension on the middle hoop, and you can see it's still slack here, but as I say, don't worry about that because we're going to pull that around the corner. Our next step is to cut the battens for the door frame sides, which we're going to do now. So before we start doing the sides, I'm going to do a cut down there, and then we can work each side individually. So from about there down, we can cut that, and now we can start working this round. So when you've finished that, what we want to do is we want to end up with this piece of polythene at the bottom. I've just cut that corner off. So out from the corner there, we want to go 45 degrees. There we go. So we want to end up so the bottom section is like that, nice and straight. So all this material here we've got to put into creases, which I'll show you how we do that as we're going along. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to finish this door top off, and I'm going to pull that while Tom gives it a tap in. And this way as well. Let me just give it a pull. That's it. Okay, now it's important to get the pleats in the right way, because if you put them the wrong way, the rain will gather and it'll collect dirt and muck and look terrible. So we need to make sure the creases go in that direction. If you can see my hands, so the rain coming down comes off. If you do it the opposite way, what happens, the rain goes in and you get a nasty black looking cover there where it collects all the dirt. So we'll start at the top. You want to be working round till we get to the bottom and you're horizontal. So we'll just put a crease in to start off with there. You can see I'm just working out where I'm going to crease the polythene. Okay, so we'll get the batten up there first. And I'm going to pull quite hard now, and we'll just put a couple of nails in the top. Okay, let's have a look at the next creases. As you can see now, I've got a crease line here, and that's nearly horizontal. So when we get to the bottom, that's going to be nice and straight across there, as you can see. Okay, so it's time to give it another pull about here. And just keep working down, pulling across the end. Just have a look at that. Turn it up. Sure we're right there. Yeah. We're going to cut a batten for the bottom now, and you can see we've got that with the creases all facing downwards, and what that should have done now is tighten this bit up here, as you can see. So we're nice and tight over the end hoop here. The next step, we're going to do the finishing batten at this bottom. And we're just going to place that in and just pull any little bit of slack there is in the sheet out while you're doing that. I just want to point this corner out to you, because you can see we took the corner off here, so it's not damaging the cover, and we've not battened around the corner. Purposely done this, because if you do try and pull it too tight around here, or you don't take the corner off your timber, it will go through the cover. So we've left it, as you can see, there's a little bit of slack there, but that's no problem, that's fine, we'll leave that as it is. So you can see now we've finished this, we've done the door top, down the side and across the base rail. So what we need to do now is repeat what we've just done on all the other door posts. Okay, you can see now that we've got all the polythene battened on, all down the base rails and around the frame. What we're going to do now is just trim all that off. So we're just going to go around the door. You want to do this all the way around the framework once you've got it battened up. Okay, I'm going to trim this polythene off with the vent door. Please don't go and try and trim it like that, because you will go through the PVC on the vent door. So the best way is to pull the polythene round and cut against the batten on the inside. We'll get a close-up of that one. So if you pull the polythene round and trim against the batten, it does leave a little bit extra, but I wouldn't worry about that. Okay, now one of the advantages of an MP structures, Northern Polytunnels, is we have jacking hoops. Now you can see I've got the tunnel relatively tight, and we are doing this in summer, but if you were doing this in winter, it gives you the opportunity to just give it that extra jack in summer if your cover's slack. So we'll go inside and we'll show you the jacking system. Okay, what we're going to do first is we're going to untighten these bolts here which hold the ventilation mid-rail. We'll put the ventilation system on later, but we'll just slacken them off because we want that to stay in the position it is when we jack the tunnel. So this is what it's all about. I'll get Tom now just to give that hoop a lift. We'll slacken this off. Now your lower end tunnels don't come with a jacking system. It's something that you need to watch when you're buying a polytunnel. Okay, so we just lift that up and tighten it up, and that'll tighten the cover up. So we do all the hoops. Okay, so we roughly lift these about the same distance. There we go, and then retension these. Just make sure they're level where they should be. We'll do the other side now. So we're going to go around all the hoops now, lifting them up. This side will be harder to lift, and that's where you're putting the tension on the cover. There we go. Don't tighten these too tight because you don't want to strip them. Okay, let's have a look at the result outside. Okay, you can see now the result, what we've got when we've jacked the tunnel. This is drum tight. Any loose polythene that there is, if you don't get this sort of tension, will flap in the wind and cause mechanical damage to the polythene, and that'll shorten its life. Okay, this is our side ventilation option. Now when we've jacked the hoops, these have come out of level, so what we need to do is reset these down. So what we'll do is just undo these and then just knock that down until it's level. Okay, we're ready for cutting the holes in the cover now. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cut a circular hole in the side of the cover here. So I want to measure halfway between the hoops and halfway between the top and bottom so I get a centre. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut a hole in using a radius like that. We want to use, sorry, that might be a bit better. We want to go to about 300mm radius or 600mm across, which will give us a hole that size. So what I'm going to do first is just mark from the centre of my pen on a string. I know that's there. So I've got a mark on my string like that. I'll put that to the centre and then round we go. Okay, I know this sounds brave, but I'm going to cut that out now. I've got a knife. There we go, we're going to do that on the other two hoops now there as well, in the centre of the hoops. We're going to put the windbreak netting on the inside now. This stops 45% of the wind, so if you are facing the wind it won't blow any plants over on the inside, and also it stops any rodents or anything getting through. So what we're going to do is just tuck that at the back of here. This will get trapped in on the opposite side with the wiggle wire when we put the wiggle wire on. So we'll just get that somewhere near. Get it central. Now we're going to batten that on top of there once we've put the wiggle wire in, so probably a little bit too much there. There we go. And I'll just trim that off now, giving me enough net to trap in with the batten. It's better cutting this with a pair of scissors than a knife, it leaves a little bit better edge. So I'm going to do that there, and I'm going to repeat that here and here. We're all not perfect and we do make mistakes, and I'm just going to show you one of mine. When I've put the door on, we've come along and opened the door to do these, and it's gone right round and caught the cover. So whatever you do, make sure you just put a safety post in the back there, what we've knocked in now, which will just stop the door coming round and going too far into the cover on the inside. You can see the little hole that we've created by doing that. What we're going to do is just cover that with a piece of polythene repair tape. Okay, you can see now we've got our polythene curtain here. There's net trapped behind the C channel and the polythene between. So we're going to capture all three sheets at once by inserting a wiggle wire into the C channel. We'll start at one end. We don't need to start right at the end here. Okay, what I want to do now is I want to pull that tight from the opposite end. So I will use another piece of wiggle wire, just temporary, to get that tight lengthways. Okay, you can see I've got that held now there. We're going to start at the other end and work his way down. It is a little bit hard to start, but once you get going, let's pull them creases out there, Tom, if you can. Okay, once you've got that done, we can go to the inside now and fix the netting with the battens. So what we're going to do now is fix this net down with the timber batten. We're just going to give that a little bit of a pull to tension it and put a nail in there. And then I'm going to go to the other side and pull that down to put some tension in there as well. And then nail that all the way along. Once you've done that, repeat that on this one and that one. Okay, what I want to do first of all is I want to screw all the drive tube poles together, and there should be some self-drill posi drive screws for that, and we'll just drill them in there. There you go, Tom. Okay, what we're going to do now is lay this pole onto the polythene up against the base rail. There we go. And then what we want to do is we want approximately 300mm from there out here, and we'll trim that polythene off. We've got that trim now approximately 300mm away from the base. What I want to do now is trim this so it's 150mm away from the end. I'm going to trim this little bit of polythene off here just to make it look a little bit tidier than it is. We're going to attach the drive tube now. So first of all, we want to get the drive tube to go up level with the side. So we're just going to lift that up a little bit, pull it in so it's level, drop it back down again, roll that out about halfway, and then fold that over. And then roll it in. You should be able to check now that it's level across, and when we start to roll it up it will be level. The next step is to put our plastic clips on. You want to put one right at each end of the polythene. Yeah, that's enough there. So we've got them roughly spaced, so we'll clip all them on now. If you want to check at this stage, you can do. We can just roll this up by hand to see what it looks like. What we're going to do now is attach our handle. I forgot to mention it's quite important to make sure that this drive tube here is lined up with the end of the greenhouse. So when it goes on, your handle can spin this side, which we'll show you later, and then when you want to lock it, you push it in and it sits against the polythene here. We'll just put that in now. Okay, and we'll drive that up the right way. And you'll see now that we can lock it like that. Once we get our strings in here, that'll hold that against there. To hold the polythene curtain against the structure, we use these fastening clips and we put string on the outside. And these go in this way up, and we put them in like that. What we do then is we get a staple and we'll put this in more or less vertically with the clip. I'm doing this one first because this will hold the curtain to the tunnel, and then we can wind it up and put the other strings on. Okay, so we've tied that on now at the top. We want to go down. Make sure you go around your drive tube and then through your staple. So the drive tube sits between the string, like that. Okay, we should be able to drive that up now. And that should sit and lock there, like that. What we'll do now is we'll go down and put more strings all the way down. We've now completed our side vent. You can see how we've tied all the strings and put a staple in the bottom, and that secures this pole against the structure and stops the polythene flapping. I've also used a little bit of anti-hotspot tape stuck on the outside of the cover here just to protect it against the handle, and you can see now how easy it is to roll that up and down. Okay, I've got my door now that we pre-made before. We're going to mount this up. You can see I've got the buttons on the floor there, what we used for spacing before. And I just tap them in somewhere near. And Tom's going to screw that up from the back on the hinges. The last thing to finish the door off is to finish the Aspen staple off. So we just need to screw that onto the door here to make it fix.